time flies, and it is like, that is the truth. And I mean, unfortunately, like when you're young, you really do think you're invincible. Like you're all for it. Life's just there and it's a ball. And, unfortunately, I think tragedy is what makes most people change, or like makes them recognize like the value of time. And to be honest with you, you can't take a lot of that for granted. My mom truly is the strongest woman that I know.
I'm on the road again, half drunk with a lit cigarette. I don't know when I'll be back in this town. At least that's what I tell her. Baby, I'm just saying, maybe I just think too much. I'm leaving in the AM, baby, are you saying? I know that you drank too much. And this is what she said to me. I'm just your ordinary fuck. There's nothing special about me. I still bunk, but I'm more night when I get drunk. I'm just telling you, I'm not playing you. I just wanna be the real me around you. The real me around you.
I want to introduce you, but this is Tara. And Tara, I really don't know how to pronounce your last name correctly. Is it Gesy?
It is Gesy, that's right.
Okay, that's what I thought, because my wife did not think it was, and then we were like almost placing bets on it. But Tara Gesy, and she is, I guess, what I would consider you is you're kind of like a health, wellness, fitness entrepreneur. But it's like I don't know the end of the page. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're kind of just starting something. You're successful at the start, but you also had what you had before that.
Okay.
So like, I guess I try to start things like where they begin. What created you? What created what you created? So
Yep.
St. Cloud, is that your...
Yep, where I mostly grew up. I was born
Okay.
in the Shakopee, Burnsville area. We lived there until I was 9, and then my dad accepted a big promotion at his then job, and we moved to St. Cloud. And then I spent the better portion of my years there until I moved to this area in the West Metro.
Okay, when did you move here?
1999, we moved to St. Cloud. I
Right.
moved to Watertown in 2016.
Okay.
Yep,
And you attended Tech High School, I believe.
I
right?
did. Yep.
Yep.
Graduated in 08.
Yep. And yeah, as well as I did. But
Yeah.
But if we would have gone back and asked 10-year-old Tara, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would have been the top 3 answers?
My top 3 answers, the first one I would have told you was a teacher. That was the first thing I ever said when I was little. The second one was I wanted to sell insurance. That's what my dad did. And then third is when my real passion, as I aged and got older, kind of to my younger teen years, is that I wanted to be a corporate executive. And by that, I mean, like, I wanted to carry the briefcase and wear the suits and wear the heels. That's kind of like my vision as when I was younger. That's all I ever wanted. So that was my top 3.
That's probably not too terribly common, like saying corporate exec as a 10-year-old. You always hear boys, firemen, police,
Yeah.
whatever. But it wasn't health, fitness, wellness, food truck, gym owner.
No.
I mean, that's kind of life. It's we change.
You do.
And your dreams change.
Yep.
And you never think that'll happen unless you're a professional baseball player that's a one-track mind or something.
Absolutely.
But when did this all start? Because were you always into fitness and everything?
I wasn't. So the better portion of my life, I was actually really overweight. When we moved to St. Cloud, so 1999, I was just under 10 years old. I took the transition really, really hard. Both of my parents had new jobs, and my siblings and I were just kind of home, and we went from dinner every night that my mom or dad would cook for us to like kind of fending for ourselves and watching each other, and quick is easy. And I ended up gaining a lot of weight. So I was actually really overweight by the 5th grade, and it just kind of progressed with me as I aged. It wasn't until 23 that I really found out that I needed to make a lifestyle change when my primary physician told me I was morbidly obese. So 23 is actually when it really all started for me, and I'm 32 now.
Wow. And like what I would say, like looking at, I'd be like, well, she's always been dialed in. This is just, like, because people probably assume you've always been the person you are now.
Yep, they see you as you are, and that's really the thing with society as a whole. You see people right now like from the outside, not the inside, and there's a lot of backstory that I think a lot of people carry, and people just are unaware of that.
Right. I remember this was like 10 years ago. I remember like one guy losing weight and people seeing him and then being like, I need to do something too, and it like started a trend.
Yep.
And I thought about that during COVID a lot. Like, I mean, I need to, but I'm at a point where like I can get into it if I like just dedicate myself. I'm like a yo-yo lifer,
Okay.
but like, during COVID, it was like that probably was a thing that maybe should have been pushed more, was health, wellness, whatever.
Yes.
And you really didn't see that. But when did you kind of start advocating for that and then get on your kick to have a gym? And like, how did that all come about? Because from 23, you go from deciding you need to make a change, and then when do you feel like you were well on your way to like making that change, where you're seeing results and you're like, this is going to be something I take with my whole life?
For sure. It was actually it was a radical change for me. Hearing morbidly obese at 23, when, you've kind of just been taken care of and your family loves you, and, people are sensitive to feelings when you're young. That's a hard topic to battle, and my primary physician did me a really big favor. So I actually decided that day that I never wanted to hear that in terms of myself again. And I went home and I decided I got really serious because I didn't really understand health and wellness at the time. Like, I didn't have a gym membership, and I just ate whatever my parents bought. And as a family, like, we kind of all just ate the same things. So when I went home, I signed up for a gym membership, and I literally just started going to the gym twice a day. And I would just kind of watch other people. At the time, I was in college, or kind of nearing the end of that, and I decided to cut out alcohol 100%. So I stopped drinking anything that pretty much wasn't water or sparkling water or some type of tea. And I just, honestly, I kind of made myself into my own little thing. It was really hard because when you're that age, other people aren't doing that. They, fitness or health isn't really quite as important. So I just started working out twice a day, and I was watching what I would eat. And then I lost 84 pounds on my own in 6.5 months.
Wow.
So it was really aggressive.
Very.
That's really what started it for me. I was working in my degree field at the time. I have a bachelor's in business management and a bachelor's in marketing and accounting. So I was working at a bank, and a lot of my coworkers were starting to ask like what I was doing and how I was losing the weight and what I ate. And it just kind of became this thing. So at night or like on the weekends, I would tell people what I was eating or have them come work out with me. And it just became something I was really, really happy doing. Like, the extra time that I was technically working, it just seemed like no time would go by. I just loved it so much, and it didn't faze me. And that's really how it all started.
And then, and good for you. That's, 84 pounds. Like, people can't really fathom that. I can't. I would be like, well, here's where I quit, because, that's, well, when people deal with adversity, they kind of create, a different shell, a different person that can deal with much more than what the old person could deal with. the old you probably in the body that you didn't like probably couldn't have dealt with everything you're doing now, running business, I mean, it's just, after doing that, that's probably what jump started you to be like, if I can do that, what's next?
You absolutely hit the nail on the head. It was honestly mentally as life-changing as it was physically. Like I had this new confidence of feeling like strong and being able to tackle problems a little bit differently. Like you said, adversity really, it does change people. It's just kind of refines you and how you approach things or how you can handle things. And getting into fitness really did change who I was as a person.
Mm-hmm. And then, so where did it get to the gym part, and where did you think like that's a reality? This is what I want to do. I want to leave this corporate banking job.
Yeah.
And this is what I want my life to become.
2015 is actually when I lost my dad. So he passed away of a massive stroke. At the time I was living at home with him. He had some strokes prior to that. And it was really, really hard on me. I was still working for the bank at that time. And when he passed away, it was probably, it was kind of a make or break for me. When he passed away, I started drinking really heavily. I wasn't talking to people. I honestly was not going to work. I gave up all of the really good habits that at that time I had already instilled for over 2 years. So it was a pretty dark time for me. I had this epiphany one night. I literally woke up and I was like sweating. I just remember so vividly. And I just recognized like he wouldn't want me to stop living my life just because he did. And that was one of the largest deciding factors. He had told me at the time that one of the things he was most proud of me for was losing the weight and getting in shape. So I kind of pulled myself together to the best of my ability and I started applying for fitness jobs. And that was, I accepted a job managing 4 Snap fitness facilities in the Twin Cities here, and I moved here in April of 2016. I continued working with Snap as like a franchise person, doing that stuff, and then moved over to the corporate side of Snap Fitness, managing the main gym there. And after about 3 years, I just felt really inclined to do something more. I saw, spending 90% of your time in a gym, not just personally, but professionally, you really see where people struggle or what lacks. And I saw a real opportunity to give people the one-on-one attention they needed. And that's when the dream came alive. So that was in early 2019.
Okay. So you were working corporate, so you were almost like separated from the actual gym part of it, right? You were in the dollar signs after you worked your way up, or were you always kind of in the gym setting?
Always in the gym, but managing the finance side of that and taking care of the numbers. So I did a little bit of both, and then I ended up managing a lot of personal trainers in this time. So I got certified as a personal trainer, certified as a yoga instructor. So I took some time to like better myself and get into the passionate part of it. But when you're also on the number side, it kind of takes away from that.
Right, definitely. And then, so then you decided, I want to do a gym. Where do I start? What did you like kind of obsess about it? Look at things every night? You probably researched it as much as you could. You thought, can I get a business partner? Which is essentially what you ended up doing, correct?
Correct.
But is that what you did, or what routes did you take to end up getting to the point you did?
Honestly, when I left my job, I did not have a plan. I was really burnt out and I just knew I wanted something more. At that time, I'd really honestly never considered owning my own gym in my whole life. And so it was just kind of this thing. And I was like, well, if I could quit my job and start something new 4 years ago, I can do it all over again. And I just started looking at spaces. And to be honest, it was really defeating at the time. My business partner, I actually met him at the gym. So we were both pretty passionate. He had made changes in his life for other reasons. And I had made changes in my life for other reasons, but ultimately wanted the same thing for other people. And that was just to create a better life. And we started looking at locations in the West Metro, so like Waconia, Watertown, and then ultimately ended up in Mound, Minnesota. But it was really, really hard to find a space. I just remember like when you envision going to a gym and like what would motivate myself, like some of the places we looked at, I just left crying because I was like, this is like a dungeon. It was so bad. I was like, no one ever want to work out here. The ceilings are low and it's dark. Like it was super defeating. And my business partner at the time, Jeremy, he had sent me this link at the very beginning and it was labeled Minnetonka. And I just said, I don't want to make a commute like that every day. And after the last dungeon place, he resent me the link and was like, why don't we just go look at it? Like, at least it looks nice. And I put it in my GPS and it was literally 9 miles from my front door. So it was actually in Mound, not in Minnetonka. And that's ultimately where WakeUPFit landed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just remember, so we know each other through your aunt and uncle,
Yes.
who are my neighbors, obviously your aunt and uncle. But I just remember I was at their house and you came with a pamphlet and you were like, there's a salt room and there's all this stuff. And I came home and I told my wife and I was like, you have to go to this place because she like lives that lifestyle. But tell me about like, what did you guys have at the gym? Because you had stuff that I guess I'm not really that accustomed to, that salt therapy. Is that what it...
Yes. So the WakeUPFit encapsulated in the upstairs, it had a protein shake bar. So we would make protein shakes for clients or public before, after workouts. And then same level, we just had a one-on-one training studio. So Jeremy and I both carried clients. We would spend 1 hour hands-on with them, help them with the nutrition, with their workouts. And then in the basement of our facility, we had a salt cave or a salt therapy facility. That was really kind of booming. More significantly now after COVID has kind of settled down, but it's really meant for, it's a mental and physical health barrier, but you sit in a room, it's built of pink Himalayan salt blocks. So it's really calm and relaxing, but you actually pump a pharmaceutical grade salt into the air. It falls on your skin and you breathe it in. So it's great for people with like ADHD. It's great for people with COPD or like eczema on your skin. And then overall, it's a great way to relax and to clear out the lungs. So it helps also with sinus issues. And Jeremy and I were really passionate about that because health isn't just about like working out. It's about your body as a whole and your mental state. So we thought it was a great pair for the gym. And when COVID hit, it was actually kind of like the demise of the business. So, unfortunately, sick people are generally who come to salt caves. And, to really understand what was going on with COVID, we just couldn't take the risk. So we ultimately couldn't run that. We were able to still train just because we only had one other person in the building at a time, able to stay open and run that through like the longevity of the business.
What were like some of the talks you guys had? Like when did you realize like COVID was gonna basically take your business out? Like you had to have sat down and been like, is this gonna happen for 2 weeks or is this it?
We held out. I'm not gonna lie, business is really hard. Like you're really choosing over your livelihood, and it ultimately came down to choosing over the livelihood of the health of our clients and customers. And I cried when we closed the first 2 weeks. I knew it. I was like, there's no way it's going to be longer than that. And it obviously persisted when they kind of started giving the initial guidelines for openings and who could work and who couldn't. We sat down and we wrote an email to our clients and we said, we would love your support. We'd love to still train you. These are our procedures. If you want to come in, great. If you don't feel confident or comfortable, totally okay. And we were fortunate enough to have, I would say 75% of our clients still willing to come in. And to be honest, it paid the overhead. It kept us open. It kept us afloat. But we realized pretty quickly, I would say 6 months into that ordeal, that it wasn't going to change soon enough to really be able to sustain that.
Right. Yeah. And then, there's another thing I also remember your uncle saying when we were there. He was like, well, yeah, Tara's boyfriend. And I remember you saying, Uncle Joe, he's not my boyfriend. He's my business partner.
Yeah.
And, but somewhere along the way, you guys are dating, and you also kind of both kept the entrepreneurship. Like, it's like you work for yourself and you just can't go back. So he also, I've been seeing,
Yep.
stuff on his business, and his quality's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm jealous of what
Yeah,
I want
it
my
was,
garage door to be.
Honestly, it is hard because when you are in you're the opposite sex and
Yep.
you're like not married or actively wear a ring, people just assume, which is fine. So
Right.
we kind of dealt with that for the longevity of the business, and it was always, no, we're just business partners. Jeremy and I are a lot alike because he does find joy in the same things that I do, and he is passionate about other people. And you said it, once you work for yourself, you can't go back. When we decided to sell WakeUPFit, I had already had Adventure Bowls working before we signed on the dotted line there, because I just COVID was the true eye opener for me that I loved. I loved WakeUPFit. It was such a meaningful place for me. I loved watching people change their lives, but ultimately, right now, like, being a good person isn't enough in society. Like, I believe that God put us all here so that we could make a change and we could encourage people and make a real difference. And while I was making a difference in the lives of a handful of people around me at a time, I wanted to make a bigger impact. And what COVID taught me was that people can work out anywhere at any time. They can work out with people online. They can just go outside. There's a lot of flexibility in that. But the food, if you don't have healthy food readily available for you, it just doesn't work. And that's kind of how Adventure Bowls was born. So
And you guys were also doing shakes out of WakeUPFit, so you had already kind of been you'd been kind of doing some protein shakes and dealing with that. But then, had you seen some other food trucks with like acai bowls and gone, I want to do that?
We hadn't. So we had seen some in Florida. When we first opened WakeUPFit, we had gone to a salt therapy conference in Orlando. So we had kind of seen them there. And then I actually got introduced to acai bowls in St. Cloud at a place called Cloud9 Energy Bowls. And then also in this region is Nautical Bowls. So in this state, as far as like larger companies that you would see, those are probably the biggest two. There's a handful of other ones around here. But there was nothing really local. And the companies I was going to, you couldn't find macronutrients, so proteins, carbs, and fats. And it was just really hard to know what was in them. And when you are committed to your fitness, I've been doing it for almost 10 years and I still track what I eat. It's more easy for me now, but I do. And so when you can't find that, it isn't easy to stay on track. And not that you always have to, but it was just something that we were like, wow, this is really great. And it's not really here yet. Like it's here, but it's not expanding because they're very popular on the East and West Coast, actually. So Adventure Bowl started as a brick and mortar. That's what I wanted. I wanted it in a building, and I had kind of looked around all of the ones I could find in the States and noticed a need for like a front-facing serving window so you could watch as your bowl was built. And that's really what I ultimately had seen for Adventure Bowls. And then I actually went to a grad party that I was managing for a client, and they had an acai bowl company there. I don't want to say their name. It's just really not appropriate. However, it was a terrible experience. It was not good. And it was like a light switch for me. This was kind of in the midst of COVID. So I was like, yeah, this is for sure. I went home that night and completely changed the business plan and found a food truck builder, and here we are. So it's kind of been a wild ride.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like if one thing doesn't happen, the whole house of cards just falls. And it's like, I feel like you're probably happiest you got to this point because it does have a lot of upside.
Yes.
A lot of you don't even have a glass ceiling. You could have one truck. You could have 500 trucks.
Correct.
You could go off into something else and have a gym and whatever. I mean, it kind of gives you mobility, whereas the gym at the time maybe kind of capped you.
It did.
You know, and it's always weird to think back. You think like this is the end, this is it, and then an opportunity arises. But I think the difference between you and somebody else is you actually put one foot in front of the other and made it happen. That's where a lot of people stall out. That's where many people stall out. I was actually interviewing Damian Hahn. He's a 2-time national wrestling champ from the Gophers, and he coaches South Dakota State now. And we cut the cameras, and we were talking, and he just said to me, he's like, yeah, you know how it is. If you don't do it yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. He goes, so I just was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to go raise $5 million in 30 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, that's how this dream was built. And I was like, dude, that's
crazy.
He didn't look at it like, oh, I can't do that. And that's the secret sauce. The can.
For sure.
You know what I mean? You can find plenty of people that are telling you that you can't and that's too hard and but the FDA and then this and oh my God, we're never gonna. Well, you can say can't, but until you do it. And I guess what I'm really going round and round is saying is like you're just kind of a doer, and that's you'll always be successful because you're just probably not going to stop. It's
well,
like
thank you.
I see your posts on Facebook and I'm like exhausted with like, oh my God, I can't imagine how much back that has to it. We see a 10-second clip and I'm like, everything behind everything. I mean, it's very impressive.
Well, thank you. It's all of the hard work. It's 10 times more work than I anticipated. I was mentioning to you, I plan to run adventure bowls with myself and one person in the truck all the time. And at the moment I have 6 employees. So it is a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of really early mornings and it's a lot of really late nights. And I work 7 days a week nonstop. But you can't do it alone. Honestly, you can't. People always say you're so successful or you're so lucky. And the reality is, like you said, adversity, like I won't stop. And it's not really it's for my benefit in the long run. It's for what I see for myself and for the world. But when you want to make a difference that badly, like it's just so passionate to me. And I see the smiles of the people who come to the truck or who send me messages and say they're so thankful because their daughter who's missing a chromosome to digest fat can actually eat something out somewhere. Like that's what it's about. As much work as I put in, it is truly because of the support of other people that I am here. My girls, my staff, they are second to none. Like they put in so much work and they all believe in the brand. And that's really what it comes down to for me. You know, everybody has adversity in their lives, even if they're unwilling to share it. And if being strong and determined to like work through the hard times can motivate even one person to just be like, I am worthy and I am deserving and I can make a difference, then that's really what my company is about. So I feel super fortunate to be in a place to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably don't like to hear this because praise and people just don't take praise very well, but you deserve it. I mean,
thank you.
You did everything, you deserve it. And I'm sure it's only going to go up and up from here, but like, what about your first night? Were you anxious for your first night of opening up? Were you like freaking out? Because you cried when the other thing closed, which it's like, yeah, that's your whole life. And then were you in tears just like opening up? You almost had to be. Or maybe you're so worried and anxious and nervous you couldn't even.
So honestly, the night before opening, everything that could have gone wrong with that food truck went wrong. Jeremy, my boyfriend, is to thank for saving the day. We had to back the food truck up into like the sopping wet yard and fill the water tank because the hose would not tie together. It froze and expanded. So we couldn't get it full of water. The water heater, for some reason, did not get... so when I first picked up the truck, they had to winterize it because it wasn't warm enough. It didn't get retied. So when we went to turn on the water heater, it literally exploded everywhere. It was it was a really wild night. And on top of that, my generator got installed wrong and did not find that out until the night before when I had thousands of dollars of meltable product in it. So this all happened within like less than 24 hours before my first event, and went to bed like just praying it would all turn out, and it ended up being the best day ever. But yes, I cried multiple times. I cried on the way there. I cried when I was there. I cried when I got home. I'm just an emotional person, like by fault. That's just who I am. But it was a really joyful day. Like just seeing the people, and friends and family of course showed up, but just seeing the people who showed up who don't even know you, but that believe in what you're doing, like it's an amazing feeling. I was so fortunate. We got kind of annihilated on the first night. Like you never know what to expect. And we ended up it was snowing and raining. So people stood out in the cold to like get bowls and be supportive, and it was really fun. I saw a lot of clients from the gym that still came, that I still talk to, and a lot of community members from Mound where my gym was, and they showed up, and then I had friends and family there, so it was really fun.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine. Jeremy was probably running around with you like...
Yeah. The vision you have in your mind is definitely right.
It's what it is,
Yeah.
right? Because, oh my gosh. But, so, I mean, for people who don't know, and I say the word wrong all the time, acai.
Yep.
And I haven't had one. I've seen them in Honolulu.
Yep. Very popular in Hawaii. They started there.
I wanted to get one, and then it's like... There's just everything, and I don't know what I chose. Probably pina coladas and whatever, But like, what exactly? Because there's different bases. Because I was just asking my wife about it. I'm like, have you ever had one? She's like, yeah. You haven't? And I was like, no, I don't even know.
Okay.
I'm like,
yeah. What are they?
I mean, like, I know what acai berries are.
Correct.
That's where my education of what you're doing goes. So what exactly is your product?
So in the States, they're more commonly known as smoothie bowls, although they're not blended. At least mine aren't. And you can find companies that blend the bottom, so they are much more like a smoothie. But my bowls specifically, I source pure fruit sorbets. So they have some tapioca stabilizers in them, but otherwise they're pure fruit, with the exception of cacao, which is a chocolate base, and that's like a cacao powder that's mixed with some stabilizers to give it that. But they scoop like a sorbet, and most of them are quite fruity. So we offer a Blue Magic, which is like a coconut, pineapple, mango base with a protein derivative inside of it called spirulina. And then we offer mango, pitaya, which is dragon fruit, acai, and we offer the cacao. So we have 5 bases at the moment. You can either pick a bowl that's kind of made for you, or you can build your own. And then we put granolas, we put nuts, nut butters, different types of seeds, and then fresh fruits on the top. And we offer different things in the truck. So as far as beverages, so like waters, and then we offer a kombucha, which is local. So, everything in the truck is gluten-free, dairy-free, and vegan. We tried really hard. While I'm not any of those other things, in my 10 years in the fitness space, 90% of my clients were one or all 3 of those things. So it has really become a dire need because it isn't readily available. And a lot of people are unaware of, truly what what other people need for their diets. And so when you can offer something like that, it gives a lot of confidence to the purchaser or to the consumer. I have a celiac that works for me, so she's able to consume everything in the truck, and then also advocate well for that. But they come in 12-ounce bowls and 16-ounce bowls, so they can be a snack or they can be a meal. And then we offer something called a RAR bar, which is a local company out of Minnesota. They quit their corporate jobs. It's a husband and wife, and they built this very clean protein bar. And we source those and put them on the top. So for people like really committed to their fitness who need the extra protein boost, we also offer that. So we try to be well-rounded, something that kids can enjoy, but also something that is sustainable for an adult or when you're on the road or need something to eat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And so not to keep you too long, because I'm sure you're like super busy, and
no,
this isn't like the relaxing part of your night. There
it
probably
is the relaxing part.
Or, yeah,
I have the
probably
day
is.
off.
Oh,
yes,
right.
So it's good. We're good.
But like, what were some of the things that you didn't expect aside from the breakdowns and the everything on the forefront? Like, starting this business, what were some of the things like that you just didn't realize that?
So when you own a food truck, you have to have general knowledge of how vehicles work and run and what sounds right and doesn't. Like, you can't just turn up the radio and keep driving, because I'm definitely guilty of that in my car. Honestly. So a lot of my anxiety with the food truck actually came from being just very uneducated on common knowledge of vehicles, because that truck is my business. If you get in an accident, the business doesn't run. So
Right.
I carried a lot of anxiety about that. I've worked really hard to at least have like a baseline knowledge of everything and ask questions when I need to. That was probably like the biggest personal barrier for me. But then coming into it, also recognizing I worked really hard to build somewhat of a busy schedule before opening day, because I wanted to know that my staff and myself could count on the business. And then we got on the road, and it was like a wildfire. People started seeing us, they started hearing about us, and it was just like the phone would ring, and I'd have messages on my personal Facebook, and then it was the business Facebook, and then it was Instagram, and it turned into this just like giant wave of demand for the food truck, and can you come here, and can you do this? And I've had a lot of really fantastic opportunities I honestly didn't expect. So I give back a portion of my proceeds all year round to a nonprofit that was really important to me. But I've also had to learn how that works, taking on different nonprofits and working with fundraisers. I wasn't really very fond of that. So I've kind of had to step into that role and understanding like how to give back and what are the best ways to give back to our local communities and help kids, especially kids, excel. And then also just like the wave of people who were like, how did you do it? And who did you call? And how do I build a food truck? And when you're just like in it, you don't really realize that other people watch you, and they hear you and they listen to you. And I told you when we first started this, like it's hard to feel deserving of any type of recognition. And it's hard to feel deserving of like inspiring people or people wanting to say like, you're doing such a good job, or we're so proud of you. But you really, like, as an individual, I would say that like adversity, if it's used in the proper way, it's really a beautiful thing. Because when you're in it, it is terrible. Like when my dad died, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But when I look back now, it is just one of those things for me that honestly, if my dad would not have died, I can tell you 100% that I would not be sitting at this table right now. And I know that because, and you can speak in relation, when you lose someone, like your life, it changes and it is short. So, I mean, the time that we have here is just so important to just, you have to do what makes you happy, and you have to be willing to stand up for that, because if you don't go get what you want or work hard to get what you want and do the right thing, no one else is going to push you to do it.
Right. I mean, whether it's a death or COVID, and for me, I told you earlier, but yeah, that's why I'm doing a podcast, is I don't know, call it a midlife crisis, call it seeing the light. You know, you realize you just got to do what you want to do,
Yep.
you know? But there's so many people I know. My cousin started a crane business during this, and it was like, then I know somebody who started a whole construction company off of it. There were just incredible stories you hear that something happened, that they saw something or something happened to them, or they had the time to think during COVID and plan something out,
Yeah.
that they were like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I actually asked permission to talk about this because I have a friend that he was with his kids and his wife in Florida, and so it was not that long ago. And he said he made fun of this guy just like to his kids, you know, as like an aside, that was snorkeling past them wearing some goofy orange suit.
Oh.
And he's like, hey, look at this guy. And, you know, he's like joking with his kids. He goes, the guy gets further and further and further out, and all of a sudden they can't see him until the medics get there. And he said when he went by them, he was just snorkeling, but he just couldn't make it back to shore. And the lifeguards come out, and they're looking for him, jumping off the board, signaling.
Goodness.
Took them 12 hours to find him. But he said as they walk back to the beach, he's watching the family stand on the beach screaming. And he says,
Ooh.
watching that and knowing they have to pack up his stuff and head home without him, he goes, that was it. I quit my job and I started my own business and whatever. And I was just like listening to that, and I'm like even getting teary-eyed right now.
I like have literal goosebumps
because,
right now.
Yeah, because everything's so finite. There's just not, I don't know, when you're 15, you're like, I'm never going to be 30. And when you're 30, you're like, I'm going to be 70 tomorrow.
Literally.
So
Time flies. And it is like, that is the truth. And I mean, unfortunately, like when you're young, you really do think you're invincible. Like you're all for it. Life's just there and it's a ball. And, you know, unfortunately, I think tragedy is what makes most people change, or like makes them recognize like the value of time. And to be honest with you, you can't take a lot of that for granted. My mom truly is the strongest woman that I know on this planet. Like without her, I would not be me. She always told our family, like as kids, she was like, never let anyone tell you that you're not smart enough. And if the answer is no, then you have to find a different way. She was so motivating. And she actually had been separated and divorced from my dad just 2 years before he passed away. And when he passed away, she showed up. She didn't blink an eye. She didn't even waver. And that type of strength, like you don't see that a lot. And she's the motivating factor for me. She deserves so much. And it makes me so emotional because she has never stopped putting our family first. And you just like, when you have tragedy, it's like, do I act right now or do I wait? Because, you know, the one thing that, like, you know, when someone passes away, like is today my last day or is tomorrow my last day? You just don't know. So, I mean, life has so much to offer, and I don't ever want to feel like I didn't try hard enough to live that or to enjoy it. And I tell everybody that I feel really gifted because I get to live now for my dad and for myself. And honestly, with as busy as I am, I feel like I'm definitely sustaining that. But yeah, life is just short, and I don't ever want to feel like I didn't do the right thing. So
right, yeah, our tragedies create us, and we kind of pick up pieces from different people we go by, good people and bad.
correct.
I've learned a lot from people who make terrible decisions by watching them.
Yes.
And then obviously you learn a lot from a role model. But anyway, I think that's just a natural end to this, but I really thank
Perfect.
you for coming and talking, because I
Yeah.
think what you're doing is inspirational. It's a ton of work for you. Whether the payout's going to be monetary or it's going to be just gratitude from people coming to you, it's going to be fulfilling, I feel like, for you. And I think you already know that,
For sure.
in between the
chaos.
crazy stress and chaos, right?
It is fulfilling. I'm very fortunate. I love it. I wouldn't change it, although I do miss sleeping sometimes. I'm very fortunate. So it's been really fun.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. Yeah.
Real name.